Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another edition of Anniversary Albums. Today we're going to be looking at albums that are having a significant anniversary in the month of March 2024. For those of you who might be new to this series, when I say a significant anniversary, I mean one that ends in a 5 or a 0, so 50th, 35th, 25th, 40th, that sort of thing. You'll get the hang of it as we go along. I've picked 10 albums out as per usual. It was really hard this month. I've definitely left some really good albums out, so please let me know in the comments which albums you think I should have included. We're going to start off with an album that is having its 50th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 1st of March 1974, and that is Mirage by Camel. This is their second album. I think it's a more confident album than the debut. It's probably right up there for my second or third favourite Camel album. My favourite is Moon Madness, but this was right up there, very close. I mean, you've got the wonderful Free Fall, you've got Super Twister, then you've got the wonderful sort of mini epic of Nimrodel, The Procession and the White Rider. You've got on side 2, you've got Earthrise, and then you've got another mini epic with Lady Fantasy, which has Encounter, Smiles for You, and Lady Fantasy. It's really wonderful progressive rock from that sort of mid-70s period. Camel were always a slightly gentler band than some of the other progressive rock bands, but they could rock out when they wanted to as well. Andy Latimer, wonderful guitar player. Pete Barden's great keyboard player. So, classic lineup of Camel and a great album from them having its 50th anniversary. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 45th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released also on the 1st of March, but in 1979. It's considered one of their absolute all-time classic albums, and that is Number One in Heaven by Sparks. This was the album that they did as first one as a collaboration with Giorgio Moroder, so it's got that really sort of late 70s electronic disco sound to it, but done the way only Sparks can do it. Definitely an influence on a lot of the 80s synth pop bands that would come out of the UK and places like that. No doubts about that. You've got the wonderful tryouts for the human race. Again, with Sparks albums, you get that wonderful wry sense of humour, particularly from Ron Mayle, because he wrote most of the lyrics. You have the wonderful Academy Award performance. You have La Dolce Vita. On side 2, you've got Beat the Clock, which was a really good single, really catchy. Again, very witty lyric as well. You've got My Other Voice, and then you've got the Number One Song in Heaven, which to this day is a song that they have to play every show that they do. Ron gets up and does his wonderful little dance at the end of Number One Song in Heaven during the instrumental break. Fabulous song, fabulous album. Complete change of direction for them, but Sparks were always well known for changing musical direction all the time. Speaking of bands that covered a lot of musical ground in their careers, the next album we're going to be having a look at is having its 25th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 2nd of March 1999. It is the second to last album by this band, and that is Apple Venus Volume 1 by XTC. Now, I've done an XTC Studio Albums Ranked. I will leave a link for that in the description. This ranked very highly on that list because it is a fabulous album. It's mostly acoustic. A lot of it is orchestrated. It's just sumptuous and gorgeous, and the songwriting on it is just peerless as far as I'm concerned. It starts off with the incredible River of Orchids with its circular orchestration and wonderful lyrics from Andy about, sort of retreating back into nature and letting modern, you know, cars and buildings and whatever decay, and you've got the beautiful acoustic, I like that. You've got gorgeous Easter Theatre, the Knights in Shining Karma, lovely play on words in the title, and again it's a beautiful, beautiful song. You get from Colin the wonderful Frivolous Tonight, where he's just talking about just the trivial things in life that make life worth living, rather than getting all hung up on everything that's big and important and serious. You get the absolutely sumptuous Green Man. You get the savage Your Dictionary. It's lyrically a savage song, but beautiful musically, absolutely gorgeous. You have I Can't Own Her, Harvest Festival, and then The Last Balloons, a really haunting last song to go out on of this album. They would do one more album, which was Wasp Star. This, to me, their last absolutely classic album. The next album we're going to have a look at is a debut album. It is having its 50th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 8th of March 1974, and it is the self-titled album by Kansas. Kansas, a band I've sort of gotten into in the last sort of 10-12 years. Really, really loved them. Didn't know until I sort of really got exposed to Kansas that there was such a thing in the 70s as American progressive rock. But they absolutely are. Of course, they do give it an American spin. It's not, doesn't sound the same as British or European prog, but it is definitely prog music, especially some of the longer tracks. But I mean, it starts off with the real great sort of hard rock and boogie, Can I Tell You, and Bringing It Back. Both of those really sort of have that wonderful energy to them, but then you get the atmospheric Lonely Wind. Then you get you get into the proggy tracks towards the end of side one with things like Belexis and Journey for Mariabron. And then on side two, you've got the Pilgrimage, you've got Apaku, and then you've got the wonderful, very, very proggy Death of Mother Nature suite. I think that Kansas would go on to bigger and better things after this album, but this album is still a wonderful album, one of their better albums, and an absolutely kick-ass debut. And they don't look anything like a progressive rock band on the back there. They look like a bunch of Kansas farmers. But great, great album, great, great band. Highly underrated, not very well known here in Australia, and they really, really should be. Keeping in a progressive rock vein, the next album we're going to have a look at is having its 40th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 12th of March 1984. It is the second album by this band, and that is Fugazi by Marillion. This was actually the very first Marillion album I ever heard. I was exposed to it. I had an older friend when I was a teenager who used to work at a community radio station, 4ZZZ here in Brisbane. And he used to do the graveyard shift. And he told me to get this album and have a listen to it. And when I first listened to it, I didn't really get it. I just started getting into progressive rock about that time. But this sounded different. You know, it was in the style of that sort of 70s progressive rock, but it had a very 80s sound, particularly with the keyboards. Two things I really loved, but mashed together, they didn't quite make sense to me at the time. And then, of course, lyrically, Fish didn't sing about the sort of things that a lot of other progressive rock bands that I was familiar with at the time sang about. But this album eventually won me over, and I've been a Marillion fan ever since. It starts off with the incredible Assassin. Love that song. Punch and Judy, short, punchy single. You get the beautiful Jigsaw. You get Emerald Lies, which is really, really sort of atmospheric and stuff, as is She Chameleon. It's a really slow, it's got this almost sort of pipe organ, church feel to it. You get the wonderful Incubus. And then Fugazi, the title track. to kick it off. Maybe not my favorite Fish album. It's probably most people's least favorite Fish album from the Marillion, from those first 4 albums. But I really like it. It's not my least favorite of them either. It's a great album. It's definitely a darker album, sort of musically, yes, but lyrically particularly. So maybe not where I would start with Marillion, but once you've gotten a taste for them, definitely get into this album because it's a really, really good album. The next album we're going to be having a look at is having its 45th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 16th of March 1979. It is an all-time classic. It is the best-selling album by this band, and that is Breakfast in America by Supertramp. I mean, so many hit singles on this album. Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, the title track, Breakfast in America, Take the Long Way Home. I mean, all of those songs, radio staples on classic rock radio to this day. But you also get Gone Hollywood, which I think is a wonderful song. You get Oh Darling, you get Lord Is It Mine. Just Another Nervous Wreck. That's a song I really think is an underrated song on this album. I really, really like it. Casual Conversations and Child of Vision. The whole album is just brilliant from start to end. Love it to death. Great album. Definitely need to do a Supertramp show on the channel at some stage. I'm not quite sure. I don't have some of the later albums, so I'd need to sort of check those out before I could do a ranking or anything like that. But they're a band I really, really like. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 22nd of March 1974. It is one of the most well-known albums by this artist, and that is Apostrophe by Frank Zappa. Now, I have done a Frank Zappa top 10 studio albums ranked. I'll leave a link to that in the description. This definitely made it. It was pretty high up on the list too. It's an absolutely classic album. It was recorded at the same time as the Mother's Overnight Sensation album, so there's a lot of overlap between the two. But it starts off with the wonderful sort of suite you get at the beginning. You get the Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, Nanook Rubs It, San Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, and then Father Oblivion. And which those tracks all sort of run into each other and tell a story. A very warped story, of course, because we are talking Frank Zappa here. But side 1 closes out with the wonderful Cosmic Debris. Side 2, it's a little jammier. It's a little, more open musically. You get Eccentrical Fours. You get the title track Apostrophe, which Jack Bruce performs on from Cream. You get wonderful Uncle Remus, and you get the brilliant Stinkfoot on side 2. It's a great album. It's a slightly more accessible album, at least by Frank Zappa standards, which is why it's one of his better charting albums. You get so many wonderful, wonderful players on the album. As was pretty typical for Frank Zappa, he only used the best musicians. It's a great album, definitely worth checking out. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 25th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 22nd of March 1999, and that is Stupid Dream by Porcupine Tree. I definitely need to do a Porcupine Tree studio albums rank sometime soon, so keep an eye out for that, because Porcupine Tree, one of my favourite bands. Love them, love them, love them. This is one of their best albums too. Absolutely love this period of Porcupine Tree. You had this one, and then you had Lightbulb Sun a year later, and both of them are different from what came before and a little bit different from what would come after. slightly more song-oriented albums. They're less sort of spacey than the earlier albums, and they're definitely not as heavy as the albums that would come afterwards. But they're really good albums, and this one definitely, I mean, it starts off with, to me, an all-time Porcupine Tree classic in Even Less. You get Piano Lessons, which was a great single. There's a video for that, which is a lot of fun. If you ever thought that a Porcupine Tree video would be fun, it actually is. I think so, anyway. Then you get the title track, Stupid Dream, and Pure Narcotic. There's Slave Called Shiver. There's the delicate and really fragile, haunting Don't Hate Me. It's a very vulnerable lyric. That's the word I was looking for. It's a very vulnerable lyric from Steven Wilson on that one. This Is No Rehearsal is a really great song. Baby Dream in Cellophane. Stranger by the Minute, another sort of shorter song, you know, a little more radio friendly than Porcupine Tree had been used to being. But then you get A Smart Kid, and then towards the end you get the wonderful, wonderful Tinto Brass. And then it ends with Stop Swimming. Great album. Really, really love it. You have the original lineup of Porcupine Tree on here, plus Theo Travis playing some flute and sax on it. Absolutely wonderful. The next album we're going to have a look at is very near and dear to my heart. It's having its 50th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 29th of March 1974. It was the first album I ever heard from this band, and that is Starless and Bible Black by King Crimson. This was an album that I found in that crate of records when I was sort of 14 years old. I've told the story. If you go and watch my video on Emerson, Lake and Palmer's brain salad surgery, I talk about that particular night that changed my life, where I discovered progressive rock music just by going through this crate of records and pulling things out at random and listening to them. And this was one of them, Starless and Bible Black, and it just hit me right from the get-go. It starts off just so energetically with The Great Deceiver. Incredible opening track. Then you get the wonderful Lament. A lot of this is recorded live. Those first two tracks were recorded in the studio. The Night Watch, part of it is recorded in the studio, part of it live. The rest of it is live, and a lot of it is improvisations, like We'll Let You Know. You get the Aching Night Watch, beautiful song about Rembrandt. Then you get the gorgeous Trio, which is just David Cross on violin, Robert Fripp playing flute mellotron, and John Wetton playing bass, but playing it almost like a guitar, with, you know, almost with chords and with melodies. It's a really delicate piece, and Bill Bruford doesn't add anything to it, and the fact that he didn't add anything to it, Robert Fripp gave him a writing credit for that, because he thought that was a wonderful choice for that particular improvisation, not to include any percussion. Then you get the Mincer, which is like a part of a improv that they've snipped out and put some lyrics to in the studio. Then on side two, you get the incredible Starless and Bible Black, one of their best improvs ever. And then you get the incredible Fracture, which is a composed piece, still performed live, but it's a piece composed by Robert Fripp alone. He does some of his most incredible cross-picking guitar he's ever done in his career on this piece of music. If you want to get some idea of why Robert Fripp is my favourite guitar player of all time, go and listen to Fracture. It's incredible. I've done a King Crimson studio albums ranked as well, and I will leave a link for that in the description as well. I've also done a studio albums ranked for this band, the last one we're going to look at today. This album is having its 45th anniversary in the month of March. It was originally released on the 30th of March 1979, and that is Secondhand Daylight by Magazine. As I say, I did a studio albums ranked with the wonderful Martin Popoff about Magazine. I will leave a link to that in the description. Please do go and check it out. This album was right up there when we did our rankings. I mean, it's got starts off with Feed the Enemy, wonderful. Rhythm of Cruelty, Cut Out Shapes, Talk to the Body, I Wanted Your Heart. You know, it's really, really good. The songs are very consistent on this album. The Thin Air I really, really like. Back to Nature, Believe That I Understand, but then it ends with an absolute classic Magazine song, Permafrost. Eerie, quite an explicit lyric from Howard Devoto on that one. Great album. Love the inside of it too. We talked about that when we did the show. That great sort of band shot on the gatefold inner. Wonderful album. Please, if you don't know Magazine, go and check them out. And check out the show that I did with Martin Popoff, where we talk about their catalogue in great detail. So there you have it. Those are my anniversary albums for March 2024. As I said at the beginning, please let me know in the comments which albums you think I should have included that I didn't. There were certainly plenty on my longer list that I had to leave out. But also, you guys always come up with albums that I didn't even think of. And so I love it when you guys do that too, because it makes me go and listen to those albums as well. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to look at some of my other anniversary albums, I have a playlist for those. If you want to look at some of my studio albums ranked shows, I have a playlist for those. If you want to look at my Bicyclelegs Discovers the Rush series, I have a playlist for those as well. And if you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter, and I have a dedicated Bicyclelegs Facebook page. Links all in the doobly-doo. Please do come and give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.